Safety Committee meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's a nice reverb.
Good.
Do we have any public comment? Anybody sign up for public comment? No public comment today. For approval of the January 10th Public Safety Committee meeting minutes. Motion. Oh, we have a question. Go ahead.
Just a small change where it says at the end, meeting adjourned at 2:41 a.m. We might want to.
Microphone.
Sorry. Just a change for the meeting minutes where it says meeting adjourned at 2:41 a.m. We might want to change that to p.m.
So wasn't Lopno's closing time? Is what you're saying? No? All right. So noted. Any other corrections?
Then a motion to approve.
Motion approved by a second. Have a second.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, policy issues, discussion, and potential committee determination, none. 6, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy, none. 7, educational presentations and committee discussion. A, presentations from the nonprofits pursuant to contract. I'll turn it over to Administrator Leonard, but as you all know, we did look at doing this, so he got them all lined up, and here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and we'll just go in order off the agenda, but as Chair Boots referenced, this was a desire of the committee to have each of the nonprofits that are funded annually through your budget that relate to this committee come and make a presentation regarding those contracts and the work that they do. So we'll start with North Central Community Action Program, and I'll pull up the annual budget just to show the page. It's page 130 of 141 of that annual budget document, and it goes through the contracted services that are provided by North Central CAP every year. And Diane, if you want to come up, or do you want to sit there? I can just stand here. Okay, we'll get you up. We'll have to
Get you on mic.
You're making Randy's day.
Okay. So I did put something in your packet, and hopefully you had a chance to review that. It was just a little bit about what a CAP agency is, and I want to go into a little bit further detail on that, but I will still keep this presentation very brief. So North Central CAP is a community action agency. It's one of 16 throughout the state of Wisconsin. Typically, those who seek our services are at the federal poverty level or up to 200% of the federal poverty level. And I did also give you a handout to see so that you can see what the federal poverty level is and how low that income truly is. So it's important that all of the CAP agencies provide services free to those who need them. And as a community action agency, we're charged with collaborating with our local governments and partners to help serve the lower income population and the needs that they have been identified. Those needs are identified through a community needs assessment by our agency every three years, and also by the partners that we work with. We must prove this collaboration by the work that we do. One of the ways North Central CAP does that is to write grants that draw multiple agencies together for funding and to facilitate greater community engagement through coalition work. I write a local grant for rental assistance and for food assistance, and that's one of the ways that we can prove this collaboration. Our subrecipients for those two grants are the Salvation Army, Catholic Charities, the Neighbor's Place, the Women's Community, and the Community Center of Hope down in Mosinee. At the state level, I also write a prevention and rapid rehousing grant that includes a subsidy for local shelters. Currently, our subrecipients for that grant are Salvation Army, Catholic Charities, 2 abuse shelters. One is the Family Center down in Wisconsin Rapids, and the other is a domestic abuse center in Merrill, and that is Haven. So another way that we have to prove our collaboration is to run coalition meetings to gather our partners together to come up with solutions to address the needs of the low-income population. And one of the coalitions that I chair engages multiple partners, and it's called the North Central Continuum of Care. Some of you are on that coalition, and it meets quarterly. It has an educational component. I don't have any real directives coming out of that group because we are all nonprofits. There are some for-profit companies part of that coalition, but we all have so much work to do. It's more of just making sure that we provide the services that we need to based on the needs identified in our community. So I have an educational component for each meeting, and then we also have to tick off certain boxes, so to speak, to follow what HUD tells us that we need to follow to get our funding. So enough about the community action agencies. I just wanted to provide that little bit of detail to show that we're a little bit different than other nonprofits. Now I'll talk a little bit about our services. And here in Marathon County, the needs of our clients have been identified as weatherization services, rental assistance, along with serving the at-risk youth. Weatherization is a fully funded program by the state. We can only weatherize homes and apartments or duplexes and fourplexes if the person that resides in those qualifies for energy assistance. And we can only weatherize an apartment or a house if the structure is solid and the savings to investment ratio is a dollar for dollar. So every dollar we put in, we have to get a dollar back out of it, or our clients do. And that's a free service. So the SIR is determined by an energy audit by our weatherization crews that go into the homes. Our next largest programming component is comprised of 6 different housing programs with case management services. They vary from a 1-month rent assist to 3 years of assistance, and they are homeless prevention, rapid rehousing, tenant-based rental assistance, supportive transitional housing, emergency rental assistance, and Section 8, but that is only in Lincoln County that we roll that out. As a community action agency, I have 3 counties that we're responsible for, Wood, Lincoln, and Marathon, and today I'm just basically talking about the services that we provide here in Marathon County. So homeless prevention is a big program that we operate, and that's for folks who are not homeless, but they're on the verge of being homeless. It's very important that we get people screened and into that program so they can stay housed. Typically, it's single parents, young families. Sometimes it's the elderly. But it's a really good program. Rapid Rehousing is a program that also uses a list. We have to do a vulnerability assessment for each client that comes through our door, and it's called a VI SPDAT. It allows us to place people on the homeless prevention, rapid rehousing, tenant-based rental assistance, or supportive transitional housing list. It is a list that all of us in the state of Wisconsin must use to utilize these housing dollars. We always have to take the person at the top of the list when we fill a program, which is fine because we do have plenty of funding to utilize in our area. So rapid rehousing, those people are homeless to be in that program, and they have a few barriers to address. That program, housing program, generally runs 6 months to a year. And it takes a little bit more case management. And we do follow housing first, meaning we can't mandate anybody go to counseling or seek services to help with their AODA issues or mental health. We can only suggest it. HUD says that we have to follow housing first, and we can't take away their housing or limit their housing based on their desire to either get counseling or not get counseling. So that's a little hard to take at times because we really want everybody to seek help, but we can't mandate it. So those that are in tenant-based rental assistance, that's a program much like Section 8. They may be homeless, they may not be homeless, but we generally save that housing program for families because we want to help families stay whole as much as possible. We don't want kids to be subjected to being, in a car, homeless on the street. With their parents. It's just not a good situation. So we have that for our families. Supportive transitional housing is more for the chronically homeless, those who have been homeless for 2 or 3 years. I also do write for a couple slots of mental health folks who have mental health issues and are on their own. They're not in housing or care of anyone else. They're on their own. And we also have some for disability, some slots for disability, those people who are disabled and just need help for a period of time. We find that those folks that are in supportive transitional housing, those that are have alcohol issues, are generally more successful than those who have meth issues. And likewise, the folks with mental health issues, we find that we have more success in getting them into permanent housing after our program. So none of these programs are permanent housing, but it's a step up from being homeless or almost homeless, and it allows us to work with them and connect them to other sources of filling their basic needs. So the last item that we have here in Marathon County for services with our department is the AmeriCorps program. That is a program with youth. It fosters civic engagement and provides career training for the AmeriCorps members. Host sites who hire AmeriCorps members to help run their programs get some financial relief too, as this program pays up to 50% of the AmeriCorps members' wage. Many of our host sites are, Marathon County Parks Department's a host site, 4-H is a host site, Monk Botanical Gardens, Marathon County Literacy Council is a host site, the Wausau School District. So they all have AmeriCorps members helping them run their programs. And we think it's a really good thing for the youth because there's a community service component of that. They have to do 25% of their time in the AmeriCorps program doing community service. They get paid for it, but they still have to do it. And they find that they really like it. And some of the things that they do are they help run the Chalk Fest, the balloon rally. They do litter sweeps all over the county. And a lot of times our AmeriCorps members help the nonprofits do some fundraising. So they get out there and they see what's in the community. And we think it's a good thing because it's important that youth see what's going on in the world that they live in. And we want them to really come back after they go to college and go back to school. We want them to come back to Marathon County to live. So we think that's a really good program. So that's a real brief description of the services that we provide here in Marathon County. I did provide a contract to all of you on page 5, or page 3 of the 5-page contract. You'll see where it starts, our services. So I'll just go over that real quickly. Number 1, North Central Community Action Program will partner with North Central Healthcare Community Treatment. Community treatment involves persons with mental health or AODA issues. All the clients in community treatment have their own caseworker at North Central Healthcare. We connect with those caseworkers to provide additional services. Those services are typically dealing with housing. So North Central Healthcare has consistently provided a referral bank of clients for us over the years, and we help those people in those programs to obtain housing because that's one of our main services that we provide. And we do provide referrals to these people as well in case they need. When we do our assessments, if we find that they need more food in the house, more grocery, if they could do a job a little bit better, maybe we hook them up with Department of Vocational Rehabilitation because they do online or on-the-job coaching with some of these folks, and some of these folks really benefit from that. So we also hook them up with Bridge Clinic if they need some medical care, or the Wausau Free Clinic now. We do provide transportation as needed as well. And let's see, in 2022, we provided 28 households with services for housing and advocacy. Number 2 of the contract, NCCAP will partner with North Central Healthcare Crisis and MMT departments. So these are folks who are utilizing the inpatient care, either in crisis or in a medically monitored unit. Those who are in a medically monitored unit are usually in a 21-day program to become sober. So we know that a necessary element for these clients' treatment plan is to be in a safe and stable place to return to after treatment. We know that's very, very important. They need to find different friends. They need to get support groups started. They need to create new hobbies, and we help with that when we provide our case management. We also provide housing for these folks when they're transitioning out of the CBRF or our treatment services. And we helped a total of 8 individuals for a total of 240 housing days in 2022 with that particular part of our contract. Number 3 of our contract, NCCAP will partner with Marathon County Department of Social Services to provide services to community response social workers. Those social workers work in Child Protective Services and the Elevate program. So typically the service, again, here is going to be that we provide a 1-month rental subsidy or a housing program. This group of clients are working on getting their children back after they have lost them due to an unstable housing environment. Could be many things, not necessarily the court system, but it can involve the court system. We also help those social workers working the Elevate program because they're working with the non-custodial parent. So they want to get the non-custodial parent stably housed so they can continue working, because we want those non-custodial parents to provide financial stability to the custodial parents once they get those children back. So we work hand in hand with both sides of that program in providing stable housing. We did place 26 households last year into housing programs, and they were housed for 6 months or longer, because we feel that when we work with them, sometimes people just need to be in a housing program with caseworkers helping them more frequently so they can stay stable. Sometimes people just need that. Maybe they didn't have a proper upbringing, or maybe they're just they're in crisis a lot, and when people are in crisis, they can't function very well. So sometimes that caseworker is there to help them through just maybe simple tasks, just getting some paperwork completed, connecting with a medical provider. It's stuff as simple as that sometimes. So number 4, NCCAP will partner with Marathon County Jail and Probation and Parole to provide housing and case management services. So we work with Ron Disaster up in the jail, more often than not, to line up housing and get paperwork ready for rental assistance for those inmates who are going to be released. And this is critical because we do want them to go to housing so they can stay employed if they are out on Huber and they are working. We want them to stay employed. Others are not employed, so that's a little bit more difficult, and they do have to be enrolled in a program because one of our programs, emergency rental assistance, that we can only help with a 1-month rental subsidy if they have income. And I know that makes, a lot of people don't think that makes sense, but if you don't have income to sustain your rent, a 1-month rent subsidy is not going to help anybody. So some of these people coming out of jail have to be in a program, and we get them connected to employment and provide budgeting services and that type of thing. And I also did put a budgeting, part of a budgeting packet in your packets so you can see what it is that we provide. We go over with most all of our clients, wants versus needs, and the importance of budgeting and saving money for future crises that might happen. So in 2022, we did help 16 individuals that were released from the Marathon County Jail. And one of the area of services that we provide to Marathon County government is not listed in our contract, and that is when we are working with the drug court folks. Early in 2022, we connected with Laura Yari, and she's been instrumental in connecting us with people going through drug court. So I know that Marathon County has some housing available for those going through drug court, because we know that they have to be in stable housing so that they can continue to go to drug court, look for work if that's part of their rehabilitation program. So we want to be able to house these folks in our homeless prevention programming, because we can house them up to a year, but usually we start at 3 months and work from, if they need more than 3, then it goes to 6 or a year. And the more folks that we can take off of Laura's docket, so to speak, she can enroll more people in drug court. So we think that's a win-win. And in all areas that North Central CAP provides services to Marathon County, the ultimate goal is to keep people stably housed, employed, and contributing to the community. And for those involved in the court system, we want to keep them out of jail. Once they're incarcerated, they become a liability for the county, and since ultimately the jail is the county's responsibility, we do want to keep them out of jail. So, and aside from the financial component, we do want our county to be a safe and healthy and prosperous place for people to live. And number 5 of the contract, NCCAP provides case management services and skills training to county partners. I do that through the North Central Continuum of Care. There's a lot of free training that's offered quarterly, and I had just listed some of the trainings that we had held last year. I'll just say a couple: healthy people, adverse childhood experiences, interface training, behavior health training partnership, a trauma approach to healing for youth, recovering from sex trafficking, Be Strong. It's a resilience training for parents. So there's just a lot of training that we have access to, and we can provide that. And most of it's free. Some of it, there's a very small amount to pay. But that's all I got. I tried to keep it brief. Does anybody have any questions?
What is the success rate when you help people transition into housing and they go into their own housing? I was just curious what the
The overall success rate? I would say the overall success rate is about 66%. But that said, like homeless prevention, because the barriers are lower and that program, there's a higher success rate, probably like 85 to 90%. The other side of the coin is the supportive housing program. That is for people who are chronically homeless and have many, many, many barriers. Not so much success. That's why we actually like some of the alcoholics in our programs and some of those people who have mental health issues, because those people are much, much more successful. They have a drive to get better and to accept our help. So I would say permanent supportive and a housing first approach, I would say that success rate is like 40%. So those people who need a 1 month rental subsidy or like in our tenant-based rental assistance program, I would say the success rate is right around 85 to 90%. So it's pretty high because they want to help themselves. That's why they come to see us.
So the methamphetamine seem to be the biggest problem, or is it other drugs related to that?
Well, this
that-
grant was written to help for the opioid crisis, but we don't have anybody in our program that has that issue. Most of the people that are in that chronically homeless category have meth issues. They're addicted to meth or heroin, and that is really hard to overcome for a lot of folks. They have to really want that, and that's why our program has separate apartments, because we want to get those people away from the friends they hang around with in hopes of helping them. But a lot of times they bring their friends with them, so it's a very hard program to run. But I'm not going to give up on it because we do help some people, and there's some successes to be had out of that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, with that, thank you very much. We'll go on to 7A2, Judicare mediation.
All right. Randy from Judicare and Judge Strasser will kick this off. The one caveat I'll make is we're working on their contract. All of the other agencies that you're going to hear from today, of course, Diane from North Central CAP, the women's community, we've had those contracts in place for a number of years. The Judicare mediation program has not had that same contractual relationship. So what Diane talked about, all the things that are listed in that contract and that are summarized in your budget document each year, those were the result of an intentional effort between administration and each of the nonprofits to identify those specific areas of opportunity where each nonprofit can partner with the county to address needs that the county has identified and the county board has identified through their budget. We're in the process of doing that with the Judicare mediation program, but I think from the presentation you're going to get today, it's pretty self-explanatory, the benefit of the program to the county. Simply put, it frees up judge time. So with that, I'll kick it over to Randy and Judge Strasser.
Okay, thank you. My name is Randy Westgate. I'm the Director of Mediation at Judicare. You all know Judge Strasser. He is our liaison to the court system and has been obviously the leader of making sure that this program works for the benefit of the court system. Just a little background on Judicare. Judicare Legal Aid is a nonprofit law firm providing legal services to low-income clients and general assistance to courts in the 32 northern Wisconsin counties that we serve. We've been in existence since 1966, and we are the main provider for legal aid services in northern Wisconsin and part of the network of legal aid agencies that cover the state. We're based in Wausau. We have 33 employees, including attorneys, paralegals, and support staff. Most of our funding comes from private and state grants, and the largest part is the Federal Legal Services Corporation, which is actually funded by Congress. Unfortunately, the demand for our services is much higher than our resources, and many people, even those of limited means, don't qualify for legal representation under the federal rules. The majority of litigants in civil cases in Marathon County don't have an attorney to represent them or present their case. This is especially true in the small claims system where courts hear housing, consumer debt collections, garnishments, certain family cases, and money claims under $10,000, all of which can have serious consequences for the people involved. The effect of pro se litigants on the court system is significant. Pro se parties enter a court system they don't understand, they don't have the ability to present evidence or make legal arguments, and generally need a great deal of hand-holding to make it through the system. These cases take significant additional time and court resources to complete, and many times the parties even then don't understand the process that they just went through. In Marathon County, Judicare, in conjunction with our judges, created this unique program to address the issues caused by a large number of pro se parties. Judicare provides mediation services to the court system to settle these mostly pro se cases prior to trial or hearings before the judges and the court commissioner. For almost 5 years, we provided mediation services to Marathon County courts, including during the COVID pandemic. We currently have 15 volunteer-trained mediators in addition to Judicare staff. These mediators have completed a 40-hour training course along with 16 hours of observation and co-mediation, and have individually been involved in dozens of cases. In mediation, we don't represent parties or give legal advice. We are neutrals. We work with the litigants to resolve court issues through negotiated settlement agreements and dismissals. These agreements result in the cancellation of the original suit and detail the obligations of the parties before they reach court intervention. These agreements are negotiated without the formalities of court proceedings and are entered into voluntarily. In Marathon County, Judicare provides mediation in the following cases: housing, including eviction and damages cases; replevin, which is the return of property; debt collection, including consumer and medical debt; general small claims actions under $10,000, financial divorce for pro se parties, and special judge-ordered mediations. Again, both of these cases are labeled as small claims, but they are anything but small. Parties face losing their home, receiving financial judgments which threaten their economic security with asset seizures and wage garnishments, and family stresses when couples are involved in a divorce or other family disputes. For perspective, 22% of Marathon County residents, according to the United Way, are called ALICE. It's an acronym, and it means asset limited, income constrained, employed. In other words, they are one paycheck from real trouble. Their income is above the poverty level, but below what is necessary, what it takes to support individuals and families with the necessary expenses for everyday living. When involved in court action, these folks often face allegations of being behind on their rent or unable to pay a bill, which unfortunately can be true. In 2022, Judicare mediated approximately 250 cases in Marathon County with a settlement rate of over 80%. A majority of these cases involved eviction and housing issues, and over 75 evictions were avoided. In addition to saving court time and money, we are a frontline eviction prevention program, unique in a small county, developing relationships with landlords and support agencies to target assistance where possible, all with the goal of avoiding evictions and the harm they cause when a different result could occur. Basically, we're the ones who see these cases, the eviction cases and these cases first. They've been filed, and then they go to the court and they're in the court system. But what happens to these folks, either when they're evicted or not evicted, happens here, and we're aware of those. And so our ability to be able to work with support agencies who we can refer these folks to once they have the issues, before they get evicted, to figure out what they can do to prevent the eviction. And our rate is 80%. It's not because we're great mediators, and I wish that were always true. It's because these cases are ripe for mediation. The landlords in Marathon County generally, by far, even the ones that aren't particularly, they handle low-income housing. Nobody wants to evict somebody. They want to work out a situation. The tenant does not want an eviction on their record. So there's all sorts of win-win scenarios to be able to do in mediation to prevent the eviction or the judgment, payment plan, anything like that. Preventing an eviction on a tenant's record is critical to finding safe and reliable housing in the future, and working with landlords and support agency is really beyond what any court can do. Basically, a court can evict or not evict. They can order a judgment or not. They can't order a payment plan for this. That's what we do. They can't order the parties to negotiate a date as far as when the eviction. They follow the law. And so we are the ones who are able to, because of the negotiated agreements, work out these things in a way that may benefit every party. We're all aware of the issue of homelessness here in our community, and this program is an important part of preventing housing instability before it leads to homelessness. We are also aware of the lack of affordable housing in Marathon County and the limited ability of people to relocate if evicted or have an eviction on their record. The ability of our community to grow will ultimately depend on our being able to meet our future housing needs, and this program directly addresses that, keeping people housed where possible. In 2023, Judicare will receive $15,000 from the county to cover a partial amount of our costs in providing mediation services to the county. The rest is provided by grants and the time donation of our volunteers. In relying on volunteer mediators, our program is extremely efficient and our costs remain low. The ROI, return on investment for the county, is twofold. First, direct court time devoted to these cases is significantly reduced, along with the time of other court personnel, which is then available to handle the backlog of criminal cases and other important matters. Court personnel include the judge, clerk, reporter, judicial assistants, the clerk of court staff, and the sheriff's department deputies who handle security and serve the writs of eviction and remove tenants from rented premises. Second, in addition to the court savings, judges and commissioners can redirect their schedules to address other cases. Obviously, Judge Strasser is here, and he will attest to the fact that the 6 judges in our county strongly support the program, and that they, the judges, use their redirected time to handle cases which involve significant county costs, incarceration, services of the sheriff's department, etc., faster and more efficiently because of the program. We're all aware of the issues in the criminal system with a significant backload and lack of attorneys, public defenders to address the problem, and the need for courts to be faster and more efficient. The judges face this every day and recognize the value of mediation. These 2 items alone justify the county's investment several times over. At the same time, the courts can offer residents a program that provides assistance at what may be the most vulnerable time in their life. It creates a win-win, where the direct savings from the program by cutting out the court cases that have to appear. And this is a list of tomorrow's cases before Commissioner Lay for tomorrow. There are 9 evictions on that. There are approximately 38 cases for that day. That's really a slow day. It can be up to 50 or 60 cases in a day that she goes through at the return date, which determines which cases eventually go in front of the judges. So it's a lot, and it happens every Wednesday. And so at the end of that, hopefully, we can kick a significant amount of those cases out of the system so they don't go in front of the judges, and at the same time provide, so number one, their time is freed up, but at the same time we provide services to those clients. We provide our services free to all the residents. Doesn't matter if they're represented by an attorney or not. Some people are, some people are not, but the vast majority of those cases, there'll probably be one attorney there for the day. It's just not, it's remarkable how many people pass through the court system at that point. So the program creates a win-win, where the direct savings resulting from the program in the direct court costs and the redirection of the judge's ability to handle more cases, that very system allows the court to address serious issues of housing, economic security, family issues, and remain revenue neutral. So it was asked and I might bring this up, it was asked at a recent board meeting why the county should be donating to nonprofits with taxpayer dollars. The programs before you today HAP program, women's community, these are not asking for charitable contributions. We provide direct services to the county, as does any vendor. What's different about each of us is that we bring outside funds into the county that otherwise would go someplace else. No other vendors do that. So nonprofits should be a way to bring money into the county, not that their people are making judgments about where their charitable dollars could go. We are responsible for the services that we say we're going to provide, and I guarantee you that the county and the courts are very much aware of that and hold us to a very high standard, which they should. It'd be a grave mistake in Marathon County to not support these nonprofit programs because of the ability. $15,000 doesn't cover our costs, but we are able, because of the uniqueness of the program and the problems associated with housing and debt collection and all the things that Diane's explained that she deals with much more than we do. It's a tremendous problem, and hopefully this program does something for the county that no other vendor could do, because we bring in the outside funds to be able to train our mediators, to be able to make sure we're handling all the aspects of the program. In the future, what we're going to be doing is we're looking to expand. We'll handle probably 300 cases this next year, and with mediation, and with that 80% success rate. Ultimately, our goal is to provide, we're now beginning to provide services in other counties surrounding Marathon County. So the object is to have, eventually as we grow, to be able to use state funding and federal funding, but also to have those counties participate and help Marathon County, not fund all of the costs for their counties. So we're trying to create something where we have a mediation program in all the courts in northern Wisconsin. And so then we, as volunteers, all of this is done by Zoom, the majority of it, although we do appear Monday, Wednesdays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays in Marathon County Court. But so that's a little bit about our program, and I appreciate the past support of this committee, and I'm sure Judge Strasser would like to say something, and then we can answer any questions.
What judge doesn't want to say something, right? Everything that Randy said, Randy and I meet on a frequent basis, is fully supported by the judges in this county. They are integrated now into our dispute resolution system. And one thing he didn't mention is if we have a tough case and those folks don't have lawyers, they're willing to take it on. And that saves us an incredible amount of time. Because they're integrated in our resolution system on a small claims level, if we have a family law matter where two folks come in who want to get divorced, can't get their ideas together, they want to get divorced, they think they agree, Randy and his crew are willing to take that on for us. It saves us an incredible amount of time. Because the alternative is for some judge or court commissioner to sit in a courtroom and literally go through the details and the butt ends of their lives and to try to sort it all out. And you can imagine how much time that takes and what kind of resources. And Randy and his folks can sit down and hammer out an agreement that those folks can bring in, we can look at it and approve. And he didn't really mention that, but if that's almost like what they do on the side for us in addition to what they're doing in the small claims matter. So they are an integral tool for judges. They are part of the system that we have for dispute resolution. And as he said, 6.5 years ago when I first came here, when we were on intake, I did not see judges at that point in time for various reasons. Unpredictability of the intake schedule was number one, with the ability to have their regular calendars kind of weaving through their intake. Now, thanks to people like programs like this and other adjustments that have been made, we can actually continue to schedule matters, primarily, yes, criminal matters, not all pleas, but something that moves those matters along to resolution while we are in intake. And these folks give us a block of time on a particular day where we can say to our judicial assistants, where we used to have to struggle for 2 hours to resolve small claims matters, especially evictions, it's likely, and Randy shows up every week, we have intake for that block. And he says, judge, or he talks to our judicial assistant, tell the judge we've resolved, and it's usually 90% of the stuff. And our judicial assistants have already scheduled stuff in anticipation of that, in that time frame. And we have never had a time where he has failed and his folks have failed, at least on my watch, and no judges complained to me of such a fact, where folks say, oh, we don't have enough time now because the mediators didn't resolve enough. Every time, if we have stuff scheduled there, we're able to do both those matters and this. So I would have to just say that they have become, as far as the judges are concerned, integral to what we're doing to try to save court time.
Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Ron or Judge Strasser? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move on to 7A3, the women's community.
Good afternoon. I don't know, Lance, if you were going to say anything or I'd just jump in.
Oh, you go, Jane. I just wanted to put your, this is the slide from the budget is up on the screen. It's page 131, and I'm sure Jane will talk about the work they do and how it relates to the contracted services provisions. But go ahead, Jane.
Great, thank you. Jane Graham Jennings, Executive Director of the Women's Community. And I just wanted to talk about, so the contract that we have with the county, we provide 6 deliverables. We partner with the District Attorney's Office to provide ongoing advocacy and support to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, human trafficking, where we work with the DA's office and the Victim Witness Program and meet with victims of abuse weekly after they're doing their initial intakes with the District Attorney's Office. We also are contracted to attend our probation review hearings in domestic abuse cases with the District Attorney's Office and probation and parole agents. And that's basically a monitoring system to ensure that people who are arrested for domestic abuse offenses are following through on what they are required to do with their probation agent, and that they are following what judges are recommending. We also contract to partner with the county in providing a diversion program for youth who are involved with sexting. And I'm going to elaborate on just a couple of these because, of course, there is so much more that we do than what we're contracted with the county to do, but we would be here all day. So in the interest of time, we're going to highlight a little couple of those things. We also provide prevention education in the schools, along, again, with the District Attorney's Office. This is assistance for young people in understanding healthy relationships and sexual assault and consent. We do panel presentations at the end of a week-long curriculum of prevention education with the District Attorney's Office and other members in the criminal justice system, helping young people understand the consequences of intimate partner abuse, sexual assault, consent, and having sexual relationships with someone when you're not legally able to do so. We also provide trained advocates to assist victims with the Marathon County Sheriff's Department. So the Sheriff's Department is frequently contacting us to do outreach and additional follow-up to victims of domestic abuse. We provide services countywide for anyone who has been a victim of this crime, male, female, transgender, gay, lesbian, straight, doesn't matter. Anyone who has been a victim of domestic abuse can get services from the women's community. And finally, our last contract point that we provide is working with the Child Advocacy Center. We provide all of the follow-up services for families who are interviewed at the Child Advocacy Center for children who have been suspected or subjected to abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, witness to domestic violence, child endangerment. We provide all of the long-term support and follow-up for all of the families who go through the Child Advocacy Center. So those are the 6 deliverables that we provide for the county. In addition to the many, 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 many other things that we do that aren't part of our contract services for the county. So what does that return on investment for the county mean? For $55,000, the county then gets access to over $1 million worth of services. It cost our agency $1,321,728 to provide 24-hour access to advocates. That's just flat advocacy services for 24 hours a day. The Sheriff's Department makes an arrest at 2 a.m. Victim is looking for support. We are there. Sheriff's Department makes an arrest at 5 p.m. The victim is looking for support. We are there 24 hours a day. Additionally, that investment also, as was mentioned from Judicare folks, brings in funds to this county. It is not a donation. It is a contract for services, and it is something that we are able to bring additional funds to this county. We use the county dollars as a match for other state funding that we receive. So again, the investment is not only $55,000, but an additional, depending on which grant we're using for contracting, $80,000 or $112,000, depending on which grant we're using for match services. So that's what the county gets for the investment of $55,000. So to elaborate a little bit, I asked Ashley and Kimberly from our team to talk about some specifics of particular points of our contract. The other thing that I would like to make sure people understand is the research shows that the number of times a victim of domestic abuse, the more contacts they have with a domestic abuse agency, the better their long-term support and safety is. This is research-based, evidence-based, data-collected information. When the federal government several years ago said, when we're providing funding to domestic abuse agencies, does it do anything? And they put some research to that. And what came out of the research was they learned the more contacts a survivor has with an agency, the better off their life is. So that's critically important to understand. The Public Safety Committee, we literally saves people's lives. Literally. The cost of domestic violence homicide, astronomical. We can prevent homicides.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Ashley Peterson-Bors, and I am the Justice Systems Program Coordinator for the women's community. Jane covered the 6 objectives that we are contracted to provide for Marathon County, and I'd like to dive a little deeper into how citizens from Marathon County benefit from the criminal justice-focused objectives. So one of the contracted services of this funding is that we partner with the District Attorney's Office to provide advocacy services to victims of domestic abuse and sexual assault. As part of that partnership, our agencies work together on a near daily basis, sometimes dozens of times a day, to support victims throughout the entire criminal justice process, improve system collaborations, confer on cases, provide outreach at a variety of hearings, support the team, and provide long-term advocacy. Our partnership with the DA's office is strong, effective, and geared toward achieving the best possible outcomes for survivors of abuse and assault. Another contracted service is to attend probation review hearings in domestic abuse cases in order to assist the district attorney and probation and parole with the monitoring of offender compliance. Probation review is also known as Domestic Violence Compliance Court. Staff at the women's community attends these hearings whenever possible, every Friday, to assist the DA's office, the courts, the SAFE program, Peaceful Solutions, and the Department of Corrections with the monitoring of offender compliance and victim safety. In 2021, just one staff person attended 164 probation review hearings in our county. Our team also further collaborates with its stakeholders to maintain the fidelity of the program's mission. Our work with the Probation Review Program aims to reduce future harm by ensuring offender compliance with treatment and conditions of probation, and to provide victims with the crucial information they need to feel safe in our community. By reducing harm and crime, we directly increase safety and prosperity for our citizens. Finally, as part of our contracted services, the women's community provides services of a trained victim advocate, to provide outreach to victims identified by the Sheriff's Department. As part of our ongoing partnership with the Sheriff's Office, deputies make contact with our 24-hour crisis line to notify us of every domestic abuse arrest in Marathon County. The trained victim advocate then immediately attempts to make contact with that victim to provide safety planning and information on the criminal justice system. The goal is to connect victims with supportive services as soon as possible in order to ensure greater safety and a proactive community-wide response to domestic violence and sexual assault. In addition to this, our agency is in the process of partnering with the Sheriff's Office on the lethality assessment program. This program is a highly sensitive, research-based tool that uses 11 risk factors that are known to directly increase a person's likelihood of being killed by their intimate partner, with 93% accuracy. With this tool, we can predict future homicide, and if we can predict it, we can prevent it. Under this program, when an officer or a deputy comes into contact with someone who has been assessed as high danger of being killed by their partner, law enforcement, while on the scene, immediately connects that person to the safety planning services offered by our agency. Advocates then further engage with the highest danger victims in order to provide differentiated, protective services that are known to keep victims safe. Currently, Wausau, Everest Metro, and Croninwater Police Departments partner with us on this program with tremendous success. I can tell you that in 2021, 61% of all of the screens that were administered to victims in our county were administered at high danger. Of those 61%, 57% of those people decided to speak to our advocacy staff, and then 75% of those people engaged in future services with us. The Sheriff's Department has applied to the program, and we are undergoing the first phases of implementation. And by partnering with the Sheriff's Department on the lethality assessment program as part of our county-funded services, we can literally offer life-saving services to citizens across Marathon County. Each of the contracted services directly supports the mission of being the healthiest, safest, and most prosperous county in Wisconsin. And like Jane said, research consistently shows us that the more contacts a person has with a domestic violence service provider, the less likely they are to experience frequent and severe violence over the course of their lifetime. The women's community is providing a vast amount of crucial and essential services to Marathon County, and our staff routinely goes above and beyond to support survivors while they work towards self-efficacy, increased safety and health, and economic stability. And the value of that far exceeds any dollar amount we could put on it.
Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Pufall. I am a youth advocate and prevention educator at the women's community. And I wanted to touch a bit on some of the contracted services that I provide, especially in terms of prevention, is a little bit of my theme. So I provide our sexting diversion program in partnership with Marathon County Social Services Juvenile Justice and the DA's office, where I come in contact with youth who have been involved in some type of sexting that they don't have a criminal past yet. We want to be able to intervene and let them know what exactly the laws state. As we know, in the state of Wisconsin, these fall under child pornography laws. So being able to intervene, Marathon County Social Services Juvenile Justice first meets with the youth to talk about what exactly are the consequences at stake here. My part of this program is education and that intervention piece and the prevention piece. That is definitely something we know that's happening in Marathon County. We want to be able to let youth know what the actual consequences are and what healthy behavior is in terms of social media safety and certainly using your phone. So that's a big piece of what I do in terms of prevention, which is keeping youth then from repeating this behavior and being involved in the criminal justice system moving forward. Another piece of my job is doing the prevention education in our schools in Marathon County, and it's a huge piece in terms of being able to actually prevent sexual assault and domestic violence in the future. We are in at least 4 to 5 schools in Marathon County where I speak to upwards of 800 students at least. I'm in health classes every semester, and it's really a huge critical piece to be able to show youth what is healthy behaviors in a relationship and in terms of what is consent and what are the laws around all of these behaviors. Yeah.
Sorry. At what age do you teach young adults or young people?
Certainly. So I am mostly in high school health classes at the freshman level, sometimes sophomore level, typically freshman health classes.
Okay, thank you.
And that does kind of wrap up my piece, I guess, on what I wanted to share. I don't know if there's.
Any questions for the women's community? Go ahead, Stacy.
With your lethality assessment program, after you've assessed that they're in danger, what do you do to help prevent the abuser from actually going forward with harm?
So it's important to understand that when law enforcement is assessing people, it's completely voluntary. And then they also then have the option of whether or not they decide to speak to us. When they do decide to speak to us, officers are making that call, usually from a department-issued cell phone, to our 24-hour hotline at any time of day, like Jane had said. That phone is then passed to the victim, who then engages in services with us. That conversation is meant to be very brief because people are at their most vulnerable, they're scared, they could be injured at that time. So our main goal is to get them to come into services. So we're going to provide immediate safety planning during that call, but then we're also encouraging them to come into our building and meet with us. And then the services that we offer are specifically differentiated to each individual's circumstances. So it depends on their goals and their barriers where they want to see themselves be. We really operate on an empowerment model. So our goal is to help people get to where they want to be and not necessarily where we think that they should be. But our ultimate goal is always a person's safety and well-being. So the services that we offer are going to capitalize on that.
Further questions? All right, thank you very much. With that, that's 7A through 3. And I guess, like I said before, the reason I brought these groups forward is I wanted to make sure that during the next budget process, we understand. And I guess I would say that I'll take a little responsibility. We've had a lot of this educational stuff in the past. When the nonprofits came up before, we talked about what are they contractually doing for us. So I think there's a misconception by even the public that we're donating to a nonprofit when we're actually securing contractual services for Marathon County to support our programs, both mandated and non-mandated. So that's what we did 5 or 6 years ago, is when we were talking about the nonprofits. What are they doing? Okay, let's get contracts out there so that when the public does ask, we know what we're paying for. So I feel it important that we know exactly what we're getting bang for our buck, and I think you're seeing what we're getting for our bang for our buck. So
Yeah, it would definitely be good to notify, because people, I know where people are coming from, and they didn't see that the benefits that we were getting. They were just seeing, hey, we're putting money towards this taxpayer dollars, not knowing that we were getting a benefit out of it. Where like if there's certain charities you look at and you're like, well, that's just something that we're given to, where this is actually a benefit to the county.
yeah.
Matt,
Go ahead.
can I make a motion that our committee supports these going forward?
This
Or
is
that
just we can't yet. This is just an educational.
Okay.
So I guess further in the process, if we go towards budget time, we can make something on the agenda with actionable items saying that public safety supports these programs where you get all the whereases and therefore resolve things. So
Okay, sounds good.
Chair Booth,
Thanks.
go ahead.
this is Jean.
Yep.
Thank you. I want to thank the presenters for such such great informational stuff, because even though I've heard so much of this several times, I actually learned a lot more today. And I just wanted to add that when my dad died when I was 19 and my mom still had to raise my 11-year-old son, there were organizations like North Central Community Action Program that helped my mom and made her life easier. So I can really appreciate that, and every other organization that made their presentation today. And I really thank everybody for great work.
Thanks, Gene. Yep. Thanks from the committee. It was very good.
Thank you very much.
All right. With that, we'll move on to B1. You have 3 minutes. No? All right. Tad could get it done in 3 minutes, Bill, just so you know.
Oh, boy. Pressure, huh? I think we're on. Thanks, Chair Boots and committee, for allowing us to come before you again. Just wanted to give you a bit of an update. The last time you met, Sheriff Billup gave you an update on the inmate food situation, and some things have changed drastically since then. We met on the 19th with Gary Olson and his crew from North Central regards to the jail food service that they are providing right now. And I won't get into all the nooks and crannies of what that meeting entailed, but the bottom line is a lot of us didn't know exactly what we didn't know, I think, with regards to them servicing the inmate food. And the bottom line is they don't really want to be in the business as to where it's going. They're not set up appropriately for it. We talked about that last time. Sheriff Billup mentioned the possibility of upwards of a $350,000 to $400,000 renovation just for cooler space. Since that time, when we really looked at where we're at for things like portion sizes, calories, things like that, the meal price per day went up quite a bit, as well as trying to secure adequate staffing for cooks and things like that. Additional staff needed to be hired, additional transportation services to be adequate to get the food here safely for the workers. Just a lot of extra add-ons that now have surpassed what we would be paying a vendor. So we're looking at alternative solutions. On Thursday, myself, Deputy Administrator Holman, Jail Administrator Ledoux, Deputy Jail Administrator Gleason will all be going down with facilities to tour the old kitchen. We're looking at all options are on the table right now, whether we can renovate the old kitchen into something that could be usable, to look at possibility for an RFP and another vendor solution, and see what that scope looks like. But that's the next steps. I just felt that beneficial for us to come back and let you know that things have changed in light of what we have discovered with the increased prices. At that, I really don't have anything else. Administrator Leonard, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, it's exactly what we told you last time. We're going to look at everything, and we were hopeful. Just from my perspective, my approach generally with RFPs is if we can find a way to do it internally and be competitive with respect to the funds, we are better off as an organization to do that work internally. We did the math. We sat down, crunched the more numbers, did further evaluation, and it, as Bill referenced, this just doesn't pencil out for us to do it. So we're taking that next step and evaluating what other options we have. And just to say, there are other counties that are doing the same thing. Earlier this week, I got an email from Langlade County indicating they're kind of looking at their jail meal delivery models as well. So we're not unique in this, but we'll keep you informed, and if we do need any action by this committee, we'll certainly do that. But right now, meals are still being provided. We're just trying to figure out what the best step is long-term and if there are any facility modifications that are necessary.
And I did just want to give Gary Olson and his team and staff a lot of credit. They're really trying to make a go of it in the situation that they're in right now. And, it's a lot. And a lot of people having to take on different roles to make this happen. This is no shortcoming on his behalf or his staff. It's just a lot of difficulties with the situation. So want to give them credit where credit is due.
All right, thanks for the update.
I had a question,
Go ahead, Bruce.
Mr. Chairman. So who are they still providing the service in the short term here, or what's happening?
They're going to McDonald's.
Yes,
Okay.
they are providing the service. They've agreed to provide it until we can come up with a different resolution.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Anything further? Sorry.
Looks like Burger King it is.
All right, we'll move on to 8. Next meeting date and time announcements for the future agenda items. Committee, go
I have
ahead.
one thing I want to bring up. I was at the Western Towns meeting, And they were bringing up EMS services and how they need help. That's one thing that they brought up when we were there. And I got up and asked a question, and if looks could kill, I would have died right there. I brought up the county maybe taking over some of the responsibilities, and that is not what they're looking at, but they do need help. If I get a chance, I'm going to try to stop out by the Athens Fire Department, and Al Drabek brought up the fire chief from Edgar, just sitting down, having a talk with them, and see what issues they're facing, because EMS services, I live in a rural area. If we can't get somebody out there and people end up dying because we're not getting emergency services to them, that would be a big issue. But just something to look at. I know it's not, I haven't heard of anybody dying because of it, but just, they said that they need some, they're having problems, I'm guessing, like everybody else. And I think a lot of that is, people don't get paid very much, but I don't know where it would go, but it was just bringing up conversation, see if maybe something could down in the future be done.
I'll discuss with Administrator Leonard, and then we'll talk about, because we have, we'll
Yeah,
put
that's
it on the
fine.
next
I don't
agenda.
have to, I'm not rushing anything, it's just
No,
something.
we should agendize it, and then we can definitely discuss what we can do, or some options.
It might not be anything we can do, but maybe something that would, and I had a few people come up and talk to me, so all right, thank you.
All right, thanks. Anything else from the members for ideas? Next, go ahead, Supervisor Marash.
Just the same update on the youth detention center that I asked for last month.
Yeah, can you put that on? Make sure it's on, and in the minutes. Sorry. That was my bad. I did tell him, but I should follow up the next month. All right. With that being said, next meeting is Tuesday, March 7th, 2023 at 1:30. Anything else by the body? All right. Then
Move to adjourn.
we have a motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried.